Hi everybody, just want to do a quick video here today with you. I just want to talk about wind farms and the wind turbines and the negative impacts they can have on your community, on your wildlife, on the birds, noise pollution, devaluing property and so forth and so on, because the mainstream media is just trying to push these wind farms as, you know, all positive, nothing negative. And what I would say to people in communities, follow the money, because anyone that's going to obviously make profit or money from these wind farms are, you know, going to try and deceive people and sell you this illusion that they are fantastic. And to any community as well that is, you know, speaking up or speaking out about these wind farms, I would advise you to be very forceful at the start, because if you're not, they will go ahead. And once they do go ahead, these wind farms, there will be no turning back. You know, these are huge, monstrous metal objects, and once they go up, there will be no getting them down. So it's very important to be proactive at the start. So if you have concerns, advise them before, you know, they go up, because as I said, once they do, there's no bringing them back down. So let's just talk about a few things now. Personally, you know, I'm not a fan of them, and I think first of all, let's go about how they look. I suppose the aesthetics. That's just a dog in the background. The aesthetics of them is, I think personally, they're ugly, they're monstrous, they're huge, they're metal, they're ruining our natural environment, they're ruining our scenery. You know, when we talk about tourism, you know, we have beautiful scenery here in Ireland, and these big monstrous things, they're just destroying it, like, you know, in all our beautiful scenery up and down the country. Also in I suppose a context of photography as well, if you are into photography, and you know, there is a lot of people who are, and they like to come to Ireland and do photography, even our own Irish photographers here. You know, a lot of our beautiful scenery is just going to be wiped out, because, you know, the pictures are destroyed. You can't take, you know, beautiful scenic pictures with these big monstrous wind turbines in the background. It just destroys the pictures. So let's just talk here then about the habitat displacement. So wind energy projects can lead to habitat loss and displacement of wildlife. Animals may avoid areas near wind turbines, which can disrupt their natural behaviours, including feeding and breeding. Okay, they also go on to talk about wind turbines cause noise pollution, which we know, and that causes changes in the land, which may affect wildlife survival and reproduction rates as well. Now, just to go about the noise, I've just found this actually interesting when I was looking up about the noise in the windmills, and you'll find this one very interesting as well. Now, when it comes to noise pollution with the wind farms and these wind turbines, that sound generated by just one wind turbine, okay, can be heard up to a mile away, and that's just one wind turbine. So you could have a wind farm there, and there could be several of these wind turbines on the farm. So one alone, the noise out of it can be heard to up to a mile away. So that's very important for people to know, that if there's one being built very near your house, it's very important to know that. And this has also been proven that they affect sleep patterns and they affect mental health, the noise, and that's very important one to know as well, because as I said, once they go up, there's no getting those back down. So be aware of that. Now, just going on here as well, and just talking about birds that are most affected. And we're just going to talk here about a lot of the, first of all, the large birds, such as eagles, owls, hawks, kestrels, kites, falcons. And these large birds are of a higher conservation value, and they don't reproduce at a high rate like some of the smaller birds. So all these birds are going to be affected. Now, the bats are affected in a major way. These wind turbines are just killing large amounts of bats, and they're killing over 800,000 bats a year, right? And this is in the US, Canada, Germany and the UK. Like, this isn't even the whole world, okay? These are just these countries in a year. America, Canada, Germany and the UK, 800,000 bats being killed. That is just unbelievable. So they're having a devastating effect, even though you won't really be told this. The migrating birds as well, devastating effects to them as well, like owls, swans and eagles. And, you know, some of these birds, particularly if we go back to the other birds like eagles, some of our owls, some of the hawks and the kites, falcons and kestrels, they would be you know, protected species, some of these, you know, are the numbers, they're already very low on these birds. So you can just imagine the devastating effects that these wind farms will have on them. Now, another point that I was looking into as well that I thought was very interesting, you know, we're going to talk about the environment, the biodiversity and the ecosystems, because everything has a reason and a purpose in life, you know, all God's creations, creatures, insects. And when you start disturbing them, you disturb the whole ecosystem. But this is a very interesting one as well, that a single wind turbine can kill up to 40 million insects annually. That's devastating. So one single wind turbine will kill up to 40 million insects annually. And again, think of, you know, a wind farm, you know, it could have several wind turbines on it, and just think of millions and millions of insects being killed. And this is going to have such a negative, you know, effect on the environment, biodiversity and ecosystems, because these insects, they all have their purpose in life. They're food for many animals, including birds and bats, and you know, this is going to affect, you know, food supply. And we also know as well with bats, they have, you know, lots of positive effects. They do eat a lot of insects, and the bats then are being killed at a very large rate. Now, I have to say, when you do, now you can do your own research, and there's, you know, there's lots of videos and all you can look up there, Google, about the wind farms and the wind turbines. But I do find that there's a lot of research, I think, yet to be done. I think there's a lot not known yet of the damage of these wind turbines and wind farms, because at the moment, like globally, there's a massive push for wind farming, and you know, it's really being pushed in all countries, and they just want to, you know, set them up. Obviously there's big money and profit in them, and as I say, follow the money. But there's not enough being said about the negative and the damaging effects. And I even noticed when I was just trying to do a bit of research as well, even in, like, we'll say wildlife groups, which you think should be a bit more vocal and coming out speaking about this, they are quiet on this one. You know, they're not making much noise really. And well, I suppose even globally there's not a whole lot of noise being made, and people that are trying to raise concerns and raise awareness are being, you know, silenced. You know, this is the problem again that we have. So my advice to people is do your research. Don't believe the lies and the deception. You know, a lot of it is common sense, okay? These are huge metal objects, and I mean they are huge. They've got, you know, the big blades coming out with them that are going around at different speeds, variations depending on the wind. So obviously, you know, birds are going to fly into these. They are going to kill birds. Anyone that says that they're not would be telling you a barefaced lie. And when you think about it, particularly at night time when it's dark, like, you know, the birds aren't going to, you know, see these windmills, and, you know, not to mind the other effects that they're having, as we talked about, you know, the noise pollution, and how one, you know, wind turbine alone, the noise of it can be heard a mile away. It affects sleep pattern, it also affects mental health. All these, you know, it needs to be taken into account, and communities need to be aware of this, you know, before these, as I said, before they go up, because once they go up, there is no, you know, burning them down. So think your wildlife, think of your birds, think of your, particularly, as I said, those protected species where the numbers are already low, and those large birds are affected more because they don't reproduce at a higher rate of the smaller birds. Then, you know, you've got to think of, as I said, the bats, they really are dying at a very, getting killed rather, at a very high rate. And then you've got to think of, you know, your owls, your swans, your migration birds. You've got to think of your mammals on land, how it's disrupting their habitat, the foxes, you know, or badgers, or hares, rabbits, squirrels, and the list goes on and on and on. But you're getting the picture. You know, use your own common sense, do your research. There is a lot of, you know, negativity to these wind farms. It's not all positive, and I just want to be the voice for the other side, because you know, you go on to your mainstream media and there's not that many, you know, politicians speaking about the negative effects either. As I say, follow the money. They're promoting the wind farms, trying to tell you they're the best thing since the sliced pan. But I think what's going to happen with these wind farms and the wind turbines is, in the future, you know, they're going to see the real effects and the negative effects that they have, because they don't, they don't know even yet, because, this is all new. And even what's happening in all the countries, like, I suppose every few weeks, there's a new wind farm going up. So, which means, they're increasing. And if they're increasing, well, the deaths to the birds and the animals is increasing, the noise pollution is increasing. So it has that effect. So I think with time, more and more is going to come out. But look, my advice for people and communities that are fighting it is, do your research, be very vocal at the start, because once the wind farm goes up, as I keep saying, there is no getting that wind farm down. So, it'd be too late then, to try and make a fuss. They're up, they ain't coming down, as they say. So, yeah, that's kind of it. What else have I to say on it? Just, yeah, like and share and subscribe. Share the video around, particularly if you know any community that are fighting against these wind farms or these wind turbines. Do your own research. I would like to see a lot more, I suppose, of the wildlife groups coming out and speaking about this. But as I said, they're just being a little bit quiet on this one. Again, mainstream media takes over and it's all seems to be just pushing the positive effects because they want to get these wind farms up. But I think it's time for the other side and the other voices to be heard a bit. And I suppose the only way is alternative media. Unfortunately, that's just the way it's going in the world at the moment. Because if it's anything the government wants to push, it wouldn't get a platform on mainstream media. So I don't want to waffle on too much and bore you to tears. So look, that's it for today. Like and subscribe and share if you know any groups that are interested in this and want to, hear the other side. Please share this video. Just comment down below as well any other negative effects that I may have forgot to mention, which I did. Because you know what, you just can't mention all the negative effects. I just wanted to concentrate more, I suppose, on the wildlife. Just popped in a bit about the sound, the devaluing of the houses, and I suppose even, as I said, tourism, just the whole look of the wind farms and the wind turbines. That's it for today. Have a lovely day, and I will catch you in the next one. Bye for now.